Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S S, and we are here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 28. So, as we usually do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in the comments our topics for today, as well as I'm going to go and put our logo up. So, shout outs to those that are here, those who continue to come through, and those will be watching this later. But once again, once you come in, tell me how you feel, how you doing, and what's the word, y'all. What's going on, Kundan? Good to see you in here. What's the word? What's the word? Yes. So again, we're here with another episode. Shout out to those that are here who will be watching this, and those who will be watching it later, either on Instagram or YouTube, especially on YouTube. Follow your boy at A.D.V.I.S Speaks. Don't like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more information and for more news and other reports. I just throw up there, man. You like these videos, as well as we're on the road to 1,000. So please help a brother out. You know, shout outs to the brother Poor Man's Podcast, man. HBO special, man. Help a brother out. But as we're doing that, for today's episode, y'all, we're going to be getting into the topics of current events, as we usually do. Talk about what's going on in the news and what's happening. As well as we're going to talk about the concept of alpha versus beta. It's thrown around so much, especially as of late. And lastly, we're going to talk about the nature of rankings and roles. I think it's very important that we touch on that to understand why we rank and why we have certain roles that we have. So, again, with that, come in, shout out, tell me how you feel, how you doing, and what is the word. And with that, that was a real smooth transition. Let's go ahead. We're going to do the show song, and then we're going to jump into these current events. So if you know the song, sing along. If not, sooner or later, you will get to know. It occurred to me, you know, every time that we think take time and believe or listen, we need to see this and tell them like, what's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? Tell them like, what's the word? What's the word? What you heard? We gotta know, yeah, what's the word? Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S, and we are here with another episode of What's the Word Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 28. So again, appreciate y'all for being in here, your time, and shout out to those that are in here, those who'll be seeing this later, either on Instagram or YouTube. Don't forget, A.D.V.I.S Speaks, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that wonderful stuff as we do again. But besides that, y'all, let me know how y'all feeling, how y'all doing, and let's get into these current events to see what's going on in the news. So, the news reports that I have, as well as I might have a little different looking and stuff. I have my setup different, you know, it's a little different setup, so don't mind me. But for news today, we're going to be giving a few more updates again on, you know, the COVID pandemic, the future of booster shots and other things when it comes to that health. We'll talk about issues going on between, I guess, the U.S., China. We'll start talking about also things that's happening within Mother Nature again. There's more stuff that I've seen that's been going on in Mother Nature. But if y'all have any news reports, anything that you have that's going on around you and you want to share it, please throw them in the comments. You're more than welcome to. The more that we know, the more information that we got about what's going on around us, the better we can plan accordingly. So, before I do, let me see. They said, is that about alpha makes and beta males, or alpha males and beta males based on debunked evolutionary biology? research regarding wolves and apes. We're going to get into that for sure. I have a little few things when it comes around to that, but we'll definitely check in with it. What's going on? Peace and love, Max. Peace and love. What's the word? Right. For today's, let's get with these current events. All right. So first news report comes from CNBC. Headline reads, Moderna releases new data on COVID breakthrough cases. It says supporters need for booster shots. So, if y'all don't know, the terminology of breakthrough cases is basically those who have gotten the vaccine, have actually contracted or gotten COVID-19 still, and also are able to spread that. So they call that a breakthrough case. So just to know, have at least some idea around that. That's what a breakthrough case is. But let's see. Look through these points. Remember, 2 paragraphs and we out. All right. So we got point 1. The U.S. drug makers shared a new analysis that showed the incident of breakthrough COVID cases was less frequent in people who were more recently vaccinated. So that's starting already to set things up. The findings suggested immunity for earlier groups have started to wane, which spoke about that in other episodes before, but let's continue. Paragraph reads, Moderna on Wednesday released more data and background concerning breakthrough cases. It says supports the push for wide use of COVID-19 vaccine booster shots. The U.S. drug maker shared a new analysis from its phase 3 study that showed the incident of breakthrough cases which occur in fully vaccinated people was less frequent in groups of trial participants who were more recently given the shot, suggesting immunity for earlier groups have started to wane. Basically, the vaccine is starting to lose its effectiveness over time. There were 88 identified breakthrough cases out of 11,431 people vaccinated between December and March, the company said in a release, compared with 162 breakout cases out of 14,746 trial participants vaccinated in July through October of last year. Interesting. So, like I said, there's more to this. I only did the 2 paragraphs and out. But another point they wanted to add is basically saying that they're going to be most likely, the way they're looking at how the studies are suggesting the effectiveness and how much is starting to wane, specifically in Moderna. It's not Pfizer, this is Moderna. This looks like this would be a yearly shot to keep up the effectiveness and to be able to still prevent a lot of the breakthrough cases. So, again, this came from CNBC. Moderna releases new data on COVID breakthrough cases. It says supports need for booster shots. That's that article. I'm going to move on to the next one. And shots out to Superb in the building, aka Big Sue, whatever and what it do. What's the word, fam? How you doing? How you doing? Right. Next article we got following that comes from Bloomberg, I should say Blooming, but Bloomberg. Headline reads, U.S. COVID vaccinations slide again ahead of Biden mandates. So, 2 paragraphs and we're out. Article reads, the number of people getting a first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine is declining again in the U.S. after a fleeting uptick in August. The drop is being led by the South and Central regions of the U.S. It's a reversal of what just a month ago seemed like a hopeful trend for public health officials when those places hit hard by a wave of the Delta variant-driven cases briefly led the nation in the number of people starting vaccinations. So let's see. Bloomberg's analysis looked at the rate of vaccinations per 1,000 people over a 2-week period in early August, compared with a second 2-week period during the start of September. For counties with sufficient data available, 78 out of 100 counties with the biggest per capita declines were concentrated in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Florida. Data are unavailable or insufficient for some counties, which are included in the analysis. So, long story short, and there's more again to this article, that after the president did the press conference and basically has written or approved of saying you need to mandate, especially for places of work that have 100 or more workers with it, they have to get the vaccine or they will be subject to weekly testing. But the issue on top of that is the weekly testing basically will be costly for the company. So it's really more, the push basically is insinuating that you just need to get the vaccine or you got to go. And because of that, at least in those 4 places, specifically Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Florida, they're seeing a drop in people going to go get the shot. Again, land of the free, home of the brave, freedom of speech, all the other things, right? But this is this article again from Bloomberg. U.S. COVID vaccinations slide again ahead of Biden's mandate. Y'all let me know how y'all feeling on these. Please throw it in the comments. If y'all have any other ones, please share them and put them right in the comments. I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all letting know what is the word. Now, next article comes from CBS News. CBS. Article reads, or title reads, Fauci says there is no evidence COVID vaccines cause reproductive issues. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and let the article do it itself, but I was gonna preface. But 2 paragraphs, we're out. Article reads, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, has debunked a viral tweet from the rapper Nicki Minaj that suggested the COVID-19 vaccine could cause reproductive issues. Minaj, who has over 22 million followers on Twitter, sparked controversy Monday for a series of tweets she posted about COVID vaccine ahead of the Met Gala. They want you to get the vaccine for the Met. The 38-year-old wrote, if I get vaccinated, it won't let for the Met. It'll be once I felt I've done enough research. I'm working on that now. In the meantime, I love be safe. Wear the mask with 2 strings that grips your head and face, not the loose one. Later, she clarified that she was skipping the gala because of her young child, who was born last September, not because of the vaccine requirement. But Minaj posted another tweet about her cousin's friend in Trinidad who allegedly experienced impotency after getting the jab, and it promoted a wide response for both fans and health officials. Yo, what's going on? Peace and love to the brothers Marlon as well as Sop, you smooth in the building. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? What's the word? Now, that's the article, y'all. So, Fauci came out, talked about, again, that there are no clear indications that shows that the COVID-19 vaccine affects or causes reproductive issues. Who knows? We'll see. There's claims, but again, and this went viral because of Nicki Minaj. But that's this article. CBS News. Again, CBS. Fauci says there is no evidence COVID vaccines causes reproductive issues. All right, y'all. On to the next one. We got 2 more of the vaccine talking and we out with this. Now, this article comes from Deseret News. And the article title reads, Expert reveals how well the COVID-19 vaccines really work. Again, giving you both the skepticism as well as giving you the other side of either the facts, knowledge, and pairing it. Gotta have the balance, y'all. Right. Let's see. 2 paragraphs. And we out. So, boom. Article reads, breakthrough infections of the novel coronavirus among fully vaccinated people remain rare. A sign that the COVID-19 vaccines are still working to stop COVID-19. Yeah, shouts out to the brother Fred Wizard in the building. The spells. He's a wizard with the words. He's casting spells. Shouts out to you, brother. Peace and one love. And what's the word, my G? And if the brother Marlon's in here again, shouts out to you again, brother. Right. Question is, do COVID vaccines still work? Dr. Monica Gandhi, an infectious disease expert and professor of medicine at the University of California, San Francisco, told Yahoo News that the messaging about the COVID-19 vaccine in recent weeks may be causing fear amongst fully vaccinated and unvaccinated people. We may have been giving a message that sounds like the vaccines are working very well, which to me can scare the vaccinated and actually doesn't make the unvaccinated think that they should get the vaccine, Gandhi said. People are really very protective from serious disease. I think we need to be way more positive. So, that was from someone who has gotten the shot. But yes, yeah, there's a whole big dip of some analysis and data breakdowns. I'll give you these numbers real quick and we out with this article. So, the data showed how the COVID-19 spread from April 4th to July 17th. Here's a breakdown of the numbers. Give y'all the numbers. Again, this is the data. I don't know specifically from CDC looks like. Here we go. So for not fully vaccinated. So what I mean by not fully vaccinated at this point right now, if you've gotten Pfizer and Moderna, it's a 2-shot. If you got Johnson & Johnson, you're fully vaccinated with the 1 shot. But not fully vaccinated, they say about 569,142, which is about 92% of COVID cases. And then out of that number, they have 34,972 were hospitalized, and there is 6,132 that had COVID-19 associated deaths. And this is out of folks who were not fully vaccinated. Now, for the folks that were vaccinated, it says 46,312, which is only 8% were of those cases. 2,976 were hospitalized, and only 616 had passed away. So, those are the numbers for that, y'all. But there's experts saying that the vaccines work very well, but over time, their effectiveness starts to wane. So we will see, y'all. But again, that was from Deseret News. Expert reveals how well the COVID-19 vaccines really work. So, let's keep going. Last one. on this article of talking about the shot. I know y'all tired of it, but I'm just putting it out there. Alright, this one comes from CNN, and the title of this article reads, U.S. to study long COVID. That's all it says. Now, again, 2 paragraphs, and we're out. Article reads, the U.S. National Institute of Health said Wednesday it's starting a 470 million study to try to understand what's become known as long COVID. The long-term, sometimes serious effects of COVID-19. The study will aim to include 30,000 to 40,000 people who make use of the digital data, including inputs from wearable devices, the NIH says. We know some people have their lives completely upended by the major long-term effects of COVID-19. NIH Director Francis Collins says. These studies will aim to determine the cause and find out much needed answers to prevent this often debilitating condition and help those who suffer move towards recovery. So, they're taking time and putting in money to do research to study long COVID, basically the long-term effects of what happens with COVID. So, some folks, for them, that is going to be the deciding factor. So we will see, y'all. We'll see how that ends up turning up and however it is. But that is all I got for at least for the COVID news. If y'all have any pertaining to that, please throw it down in the comments. I appreciate it. Now let's move on to more other news within the U.S. as well as Mother Nature going on with natural occurrences. Now, this article comes from the New York Times. Headline reads, Biden announces defense deal with Australia in a bid to counter China. So, I don't know what's going on between the U.S. and China and figuring that out, but we'll see. Two paragraphs and we're out. Article reads, the Biden administration took a major step on Wednesday in challenging China's broad territorial claims in the Pacific, announcing that the United States and Britain will help Australia to deploy nuclear-powered submarines, adding to the Western presence in the region. Interesting. If the plan comes to fruition, Australia may begin conducting routine patrols that could move through areas of China that southern China sees that Beijing claims as its exclusive zone and range as far north as Taiwan. The announcement made by President Biden, Prime Minister Boris Johnson of Britain, and the Prime Minister Scott Morrison of Australia is a major step for Australia, which until recent years has been hesitant to push back directly at the core of Chinese interests. So, at least from that far bit, I don't have more on this. I mean, there is more to read on it, but basically helping others to start getting armed to counter China. The U.S. is supplying nuclear-powered submarines to help with their patrols around in that region. So we'll see how much that has an effect and how much of that has a change or any influence. But with that, y'all, let's move to the next article. And this article comes from NPR. And this one, the title reads, The Daily Weight of Water Weighs on the Poorest in Sierra Leone. So y'all gave me some perspective from Sierra Leone. Let's see what's going on with this. Almost every afternoon in the Dworzak neighborhood of Freetown, Sierra Leone, Yebu, bear hikes up a steep hillside to fill a 5-gallon bucket with water that spills from a crack in giant cement cistern. The spendy 12-year-old carefully puts the bucket on her head, then treks down the winding dirt path home. But the water they collect from there is too dirty to drink, and it's not a reliable source of water. During the dry season, it gets less, says A.D.V.I.S.S. I'm terrible with these names. And sometimes the children come home with empty buckets. The family buys its daily drinking water, about 3 gallons for 40 cents, from a nearby shop. For families living in crowded informal settlements like Dworzak in Sierra Leone capital, getting enough clean water is an everyday challenge. But the local leaders are trying to find ways to provide water in the community of simple shelters and tin shacks that rise up the rolling landscape. So, just wanted to share that there's a number of things that's going on, not only with us, but all around. I know we know about dirty water like Flint, but all around the world, Sierra Leone, specifically within Freetown in certain areas, that's a daily struggle. And for me, I'm always reminded to think and ask myself, do I have food? Do I have water? Do I have shelter and clothes? If I have those, then I know that is the necessary needs that is met, and I'm surviving and can move forward another day. So some folks, that's a part of the daily struggle. So I just wanted to bring that into attention, knowing we know that's going on, but just to shed light on that there. Now let's move to the next one. Starting to get close to wrapping up, y'all. Now this has to do with stuff going on with Mother Nature. I just recently heard about this and I want to share it. So this comes again from CBS News. CBS. Nicholas could still bring life-threatening flooding to the Gulf Coast. So let's see what's going on with that. We got another one. Another, looks like a hurricane going on. So let's read. 2 paragraphs, we out. Some southeastern states could face life-threatening flash flooding, tornadoes, and hail in the next few days as tropical depression Nicholas continues to batter the Gulf Coast, the National Hurricane Center said Wednesday. Nicholas first made landfall as a hurricane in Texas early Tuesday, just 2 weeks after the Category 4 Hurricane Ida devastated the Gulf Coast. Interesting. This is a very serious storm, Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards said Tuesday at the press conference. Flash floods, watches, and warnings are in effect in areas along the central Gulf Coast, including parts of southern Louisiana, Mississippi, southern Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle. The National Hurricane Center warned of possible tornadoes in those areas as well. My goodness. So this is Hurricane Nicholas that's coming through on the Gulf over there and is just cleaning up right after what Hurricane Ida was doing and added more to it, y'all. I mean, there's more to be on there and stated, but I'm going to just leave it to these points right here. It's very interesting that it's happening in a certain areas too. I'm just piecing things together from the areas that are declining when it comes to getting shots, you know. And this is just me reporting and seeing, so there's nothing else here. But sending out prayers and sending out energy and just safety to all those folks that is there around on the Gulf, from Texas all the way up to Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, all those areas. So be safe. Make sure that y'all are taking those precautions. Now, last, we're done with news for today. This comes from the Washington Post. Headline reads, wildfires shutter Sequoia National Park and threatens famous ancient trees. So these wildfires are still going on. Still going on. So let's get a bit into them, see what's going on with them. 2 paragraphs and we out. So, growing wildfires in Sierra Nevada forced the closure of Sequoia National Park in California on Wednesday, as blazes sparked by lightning strikes threatened the park's groves of giant sequoias, home to some of the tallest and oldest trees in the world. Mother Nature is not playing around, y'all. Sequoia National Park is home to the giant forest, a grove of ancient giant sequoias, including the 275-foot General Sherman, the world's largest tree by volume, according to the National Park Service. Though wildfires are part of the natural regeneration process of sequoias, experts say intensifying blazes fueled by the climate change are instead destroying them. So y'all, there's too much going on. Too much going on with that. So just wanted to share that Sequoia National Park is getting threatened. Wildfires with these ancient trees, because these trees are very vital for some stuff. But other than that, y'all, that's all I got for news. If y'all have any other news, please throw it in the comments, as well as if y'all have anything to add that you wanted to talk about, please throw them in the comments. I appreciate y'all's time and y'all's interaction. Now, before we move on to the next thing, y'all, want to make sure that I'm checking on some things here. Had to do. Look through the comments, check and see how everybody's doing. Now, for sure, peace to everyone that's up in there, man. Appreciate y'all so much. All right, we are on to the next topic, which we're going to be talking about alpha versus beta. Now, have you heard these words recently? Sorry, just heard it from a song. But what I want to talk about when it comes to alpha and beta situation is not only what we're using within pop culture or popular culture right now, but also where a lot of this stems from in the usage, again, in pop culture prior to where the usage came from. So, just for y'all, when you hear the words alpha and the word beta, so when you hear the word alpha and the word beta, what comes to mind? Write them down in the comments, put it in there, let me know what you think of and what first comes to mind. But as y'all are doing that, I'll get my definitions again, coming from Webster's Dictionary as usual. So, first, we got alpha. In this particular case, we're starting off with it as a noun. First definition, it says, the first letter of the Greek alphabet. Second, something that is first, beginning. 3, alpha wave. 4, alpha particle. And then 5, the first version of a product, such as a computer program. Alpha, I get it, alpha program. Now, that's the nouns. For the adjective, you have 3 of them. 1, closest in the structure of an organic molecule to a particular group or atom. 2, socially dominant, especially in a group of animals. An alpha male. And lastly, alphabetic. So again, coming from Greek alphabet. So that's alpha. Now, we got beta. We're going to do the noun, and then there's also an adjective. So here it goes. Beta. First one, the second letter of the Greek alphabet. 2, it's a beta particle. So we're talking about molecules in different parts of matter. 3, a measure of the risk potential of a stock or an investment portfolio, expressed as a ratio of the stocks or portfolio's volatility to the volatility of the market as a whole. Interesting. It's a long one too. 4, a nearly complete prototype of a project or a product, such as software, the beta version. Now those were the nouns. Adjective, we have second in position in the structure of an organic molecule from a particular group or atom beta substitution. And that's all they have right there for that, alpha and beta, y'all. Now, specifically, you're like, okay, why do we even want to talk about this? So, I'm going to speak a little closely on when it comes to at least the pop culture sense of what's going on with the alpha beta talk right now. And then we'll tie it back around where it come from, etc., and it's added in. And why bring this up as a topic. Now, for those who do not watch or are in the realm when it comes to YouTube and relationships, dating, etc. And this, I mean, alpha beta has been used for not just only that, but basically within this realm, which they call it the manosphere, basically a realm where are men coming to the realities of not only their own nature, but also the nature of women and just human nature in general, using the analogies of the red pill and the blue pill, as well as using the alpha and the beta. Being alpha, showing of the red pill, which is you're seeing the harsh realities of things, and beta being that you are staying comfortable and confined within the quote-unquote matrix. Now, when speaking of alpha within the pop culture, you see an alpha is someone who is being very dominant, very, assertive, being confident, outgoing, as well as you see them as a leader, being charismatic, good looking, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't take no when it comes to backing down on what they strive for, or he strives for in particular. And beta being the complete opposite of that, being the switch side of those things, being that a beta is someone who is is like a yes man, who's more friendlier, really is held back and reserved on things. It's very, another bad word that we don't like to use because it has such a bad connotation and meaning, submissive, as well as being very loyal. So what ends up happening within the pop culture, especially right now within data and things and stuff of that nature, to be identified as an alpha is quote unquote the ideal versus being identified as a beta, because of what those two different types are characterized. Now, the whole alpha beta thing too is coming out of pop culture, and we'll dump in back and forth for all over, y'all. Like, we're just doing it right now. So if y'all have anything, please throw it in there. But now jumping back in and out, now you're wondering, okay, we talk about the alpha beta and we'll keep going in and out. Where are they really basing a lot of this off? Well, again, a lot of the alpha beta talk not only is stemming from the Greek alphabet and back during Greek and Roman times, but more so it stems from the idea and the designation when it comes to the setup of observing animals within nature. So the ethology, the ethnology of it, which basically is seeing, again, the alpha within a pack, beta wolves, beta alpha, wolves, as well as the same things with monkeys, gorillas, tigers, lions, etc. And it is shown within those groups of how alpha is the leader and it gets things done. Everything's coming there, where versus the beta is looked upon and shamed upon within the groups, which they settle for, less and not having a lot versus what the alpha has. So that concept of observing those things, and yes, there's more to it. I'm not an animalologist, okay? I'm a lyricologist. I'm just playing, but just taking what was observed and seen within the animal community, how other animals interact, and shows these different, again, rankings, hierarchies, and these roles brought here into popular culture now. That's also being used to, again, help with identifying a mate, being together, and creating relationships between men and women. And the notion of that there is to basically, it's showing a lot of not only the evolution of us as humans, but also it shows the primal instincts of us as well. Because a lot of that goes way back primally for us, of knowing what both men, women did within a tribe. And those who were identified as being alpha ended up getting more respect and having more liberty to reproduce, versus those who were beta, that was not the particular case. Shouts out to the brother KZ in the building. How you doing, my G? What's the word, brother? Any of y'all are welcome to jump in too. Forgot to say, disclaimer, if you do, come and join. This will go on YouTube, so if you're not comfortable with that, then it is fine that you stay in the comments and interact from there. But appreciate your time, your support, and your participation. So with all that swirling around, knowing that this is also a primitive, not only instinct, but it's also wired within us as humans, we've modernized that now to identify it through not only words and what we're saying, but also behaviors. So when you hear somebody talking about using that I'm an alpha, or that dude over there is a beta, it's based off of not only their behaviors, but it's based off of how they speak and how they present themselves, as well as how they interact with the opposite sex or same sex. I don't know. It all depends. But within that, it's just showing the differences between, again, rankings and who's on top of who, the superiority of things. Almost the survival of the fittest is added into there. But that in itself, with showing those different rankings, and this is that, he is that, and this is only this, it begins to not only separate, but also it begins to bring about a culture of either identifying and uplifting one and also shaming the other. Again, we are very good. I can say this. It's not a good thing to say, but we are very good at creating division when it comes to having different options of things. So we can either go with this or go with that. And if you're not with this, then you have to be with that. And if you're not with that, then nah, we don't like you either or. So with this whole alpha beta thing talk too, I feel is also a set off of the ego. And basically that defense mechanism in play, especially for those who identify themselves as alpha, whatever may end up being. Again, brother, let's see, it says we done current events already talking about. Yes. So you're more than welcome. You already know, Kundan, jump in. You can come definitely do that. I can't get that article. You just have to end up sending it into the DMs, and I can actually pull it up right here on the laptop right now and have it. But yeah, I was just talking about that. It says right here, the myth of the alpha male. Yeah, I was just talking about a bit of where that pertains to and where that comes from. But again, even the alpha beta will go back some too. Within Greek and Roman times, the whole setup of what the alpha beta was to also show too was usually during that time, an alpha was identified really as the older male that has matured, as well as is being able to mentor the beta, which would be a younger male that's starting to come up and, you know, learn the ropes and things of that nature. So that was that hierarchy that was usually used even during that time in Greek and Roman. Again, don't quote me on these things. You can definitely look them up and find them for yourself. There's a little bit more deeper and, you know, maybe darker history around that. I'm not going to get too deep into that because I don't know fully much of that myself. But why bring up the whole idea about alpha versus beta? Reason why I wanted to touch on that is that, at least for me, like I said, in that realm that I've been looking at, especially when the alpha beta talk is really in the realm of relationships and interactions with each other, it really doesn't play much out in anywhere else. Like, I mean, you can say being alpha at video games or being beta. It's really more so when it comes to relationships and connections between humans. And I bring it up because this is, again, a behavior that has evolved over time, and it becomes also not only that behavior, but it's a mindset. And when a mindset or a ideology or any type of thing is brought up, there you're gonna have your folks that are completely all the way left, very extremist, to those who completely doubt, and it starts to cause these rifts. And again, more labels and more barriers added upon this. So I wanted to talk about really alpha beta like this because of the fact that I see it so many times. It says, yeah, it's a false binary because there's actually more than two choices. Yes, I mean, there's more. This is the other thing, y'all. It's not only just alpha and beta, but again, we like to work within binaries. We like to work in different dichotomies. We like having two choices, white or black, this or that, up or down, left and right. Again, the whole idea of as above, so below, the contrast of things. There's, if you go and you'll see in the Greek alphabet, I don't know how many letters. I want to say it's 26, but I may be completely wrong. There might be 24. But there's not just only alpha males or beta males. There's also sigma. There's theta, gamma. Like, it's all these other type that come along with it. But again, the commercialized and the ones that are pushed, it's the alpha and the beta over and over. And if y'all really think about it, the alphabet for us, it actually comes with alpha, beta. If you look at the word alphabet, it's alpha and beta. Those are the first two letters from the Greek alphabet that is used to explain our alphabet and why we say the alphabet. You might have said the whole thing over again. But let me see what y'all got going on in the comments. It says, what one psychological study on female undergrads showed, for example, that women wanted some assertive and kind plus sensitive, but not submissive or aggressive. I'll tell you this, and no disrespect to my women and my women out there and things of that nature. Men are complicated creatures, but I definitely say for sure women are very complicated creatures. There's at times where they think they want something, but then they don't want something. But most of the time, yes, the reason why of what you said about they wanted some assertiveness plus kindness and sense and other that nature, again, that stems again back to our primitive, our primal settings, roles, and rankings that we have as humans in the species. Men were set up to be that way. That's why we're built a certain way. We're meant to protect and provide, while women were there to help and nurture. Yes, there are some women that will be warriors, and there are some men that will be nurturers. But overall, how the species was made, that is how we were set up to do so. So, when back then, men and women, cavemen and women, whatever you want to go with it, will continue on their, their offspring into the next life, they always looked and searched for the most dominant as well as the most, assertive man, or a man, because of the fact that they wanted those genes. and those particular genes will help to produce stronger offspring into the future, so that can keep them, again, safe and prepared for what will happen in the future, versus seeing different traits from a person that will be quote unquote be called beta, that's very sensitive, you know, in touch with that kind and things of this nature. That would not be an ideal mate. And again, that's back then. Now, with that whole setup that you were saying there, I'm gonna get to other people too. With the whole kind plus assertive, or sensitive but not submissive nor aggressive, those are really hard and very thin lines. You never know what could end up happening in that case of, you don't know what that line of being enough of this. But just know that it's already possible. It's done. But it may not be the way that a person may interpret it. And what I mean by that is, if a woman is saying that they want this, but then a man, this is how they show how they're kind, sensitive, and things of that nature, that may be too much for that woman, but maybe the next woman, that's just enough. So again, it almost comes down to not only just preference, but really specifically, how do you show the specific balance of being kind, sensitive, assertive, but not aggressive, things at the same time. Because again, everybody have different ideas of what that looks like for them. But we'll keep going. Let me look and say, society always wants to label. Yeah, we always wants to label. It's always. That's the thing. We as humans, that's in us too. We're very curious as a species. So we need to put things into boxes and be able to identify and categorize things so that we'll know how to respond accordingly. Sometimes we just react. That's why we have the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all these other different responses. So we have to figure that out, especially we don't know what the unknown of the unknown of the unknown is. And people have a fear of the unknown because of the fact that they don't know how to assess or even deal with anything that they're unknown of. Shoot, what we going on with the virus? Like, still, there's a lot of people that fear of the unknown. We don't know what could happen with this. We don't know if there is more variants. There's at least like 4 or 5 different variants, y'all. But just that fear there is also inherently put in us. That's why we have to categorize and put things where they are so we can have some idea how to deal with it if needed. But yeah, I said, I feel like we are not hardwired to live in a current era. It's like technology took over. I agree with you 100%, brother. I say this all the time, my brother. I say that we are living in a world that wants to be natural, but by design is unnatural. So hence, we are living an unnatural life that is throwing off the natural balance of life. I know that's a whole backwards analogy, but basically saying that I agree with you, man, that the technology thinks it's not helping because we are not naturally tuned to do things of this nature, and the behaviors that we're done, it has evolved over time. A lot of us don't really go outside to enjoy some nature. Like, that's where everything started. Like, just the beginnings of nature and having yourself out there. I know, and y'all can, agree, put in the comments, say what you need to with it too. But I know when I go out, at least for 10, 15 minutes outside within nature, even if it's like surrounded by trees or at a park and things of that nature, I get a good feeling in a sense of, relief, as well as restfulness, peacefulness, just from being outside in nature. And that just goes back to the fact, brother, that literally we're not set up to be in the homes that we're in. It doesn't allow for sunlight to come through. It's made with different materials that is not necessarily, should say natural in the case, but it blocks out the ability for us to connect outside naturally. But I can go on and on and on with this, but I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So we got here, it said, as a woman, I agree. Men are simple. Y'all are easy to figure out. Y'all just think y'all can run game. Now, there's no need for me to run game or do any of that. Like, I agree with you. Like, you just gotta keep things super simple. Like, all I need is this, and that, and we good to go. Like, that's how it goes. But some dudes, again, your intention when it comes to stuff, you want to flip it on folks and do that and pretend and play these games, then yeah, But I agree with you. I mean, easiest thing is to talk to us. And I feel also, too, it's you can say not a contradictory, but the controversial feeling for people of men are more logical than women and women are more emotional than men. So we're able to be easily talked to figure out our point and find out what we want. And then we'll tell you straight up what we want if you ask. If you don't, it's like, okay, like literally we have to figure out then on your side what you want, all these different things. And there's so many stories that can be told of the differences of the sexes, even though we know there is a spectrum, but we'll continue on at least for this case. But yeah, that said, not all women are the same. So I am sure some insecure women might prefer an aggressive or dominating. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all come down to preference. I agree with you. Or rather, we let you because of emotion. But yes, we are quite complicated creatures. I blame the hormones in our cycle, which is a lot. Yeah, yep. I'm going to leave it right there with y'all with it too. I'm just catching up on the comments, y'all, so don't mind me. It also gets complicated when you consider the programming such as your attractions of inspiration and attractions of desperation. The latter is based on the worst traits of your parents. So again, the whole thing, how Freud would count it or say it, this is, westernized psychology, is the Electra complex and the Oedipus complex, which the Electra complex is that the daughter is sexually attracted to the father and is in competition with the mother, versus the Oedipus complex is that the male is attracted to the mother with those traits and is fighting the father for affection. So I feel that. What do the letters in COVID mean? Brother, I'm not even too sure. Oh yeah, bro. It stands for the coronavirus. It's basically the whole idea of the coronavirus of SARS when it's talking about COVID. Yeah, there might be some other spelling for it, but I'm not too sure. It's interesting because I just posted my book today, Top 5 Books of Expanding Your Understanding of Dating and Relationships. I've been seeing this for almost about 9 months, maybe even 11 months. Like I've been seeing this grow exponentially over time with the emergence of more men coming out and be able to speak, due to women saying that they want to hear their perspectives, as well as on the same side of about this time with just us we were in homes and houses, so people are finding other outlets and ways to express. But this is going on for long periods of time. Let's see. This is the peak of information sharing in this era of life. Yes, the information age. That's what we're in. I agree. I feel more alive when I'm out and moving in nature and getting sunlight. Yes, that sunlight is important, y'all. It's very important. Get your daily sunlight if you can. It don't even have to be for like 30 minutes. Like legitly like 8 to 15, I would say. And 15 is pushing it for sometimes, like direct sunlight. Whatever you want to say. That's from my experience. You take it as you want with it. Also wondering how much decades of media programming from Disney and Hollywood affects us all. A lot. And I'm going to tell you now, a lot of that, and I spoke on it earlier, with this whole frame of the manosphere. If y'all don't know about the manosphere, this includes many folks within there, from Alpha Male Strategies. Who else we got in there that's in the manosphere? Not only Alpha Male Strategies, you have Steph is Cold, you have a number of different dudes. I'll say MTR, he's in there back and forth. MTR is Mediocre Tutorials and Views, as well as people are saying Kevin Samuels is in there as well. But this is this realm of where men are coming to help not only mentor young men to let them know about not only their nature, women's nature, and just human nature in general. Some of them are coming there again to break through these true realities of what they've been showed through all these Disney and Hollywood, fantasies of romanticism and things of that nature, and how we were taught not only by our parents, specifically some from our mothers, not only our fathers, of how we're supposed to treat women and then finding out that that was actually the complete opposite due to just the behaviors of women in that particular case. So the whole realm is like just finding their way through that. There's realms in there that is very problematic, but there's other realms within the manosphere that is very informational and is very helpful. A lot of the talk is really of more of like uplifting and making sure you empower yourself and, you know, continue to work hard and just setting goals and things and stuff of that nature. And for some folks is the other side of, unfortunately, bashing the other side of women, saying this is that, them and them. It's a whole setup. Again, it's the balance. So what you find and you digest and you take in, again, always make sure you take time to reassess it and analyze it, and make sure that you just don't keep falling in those dopamine loops, which means you keep coming back to this particular content because it's speaking to you so well, because it might be triggering something within yourself you haven't checked. But that's with a lot of things. But it has definitely, that's where a lot of this sparked, was because of identifying these Disney and Hollywood movies that portrayed a lot of this, which is not the necessary norm. I should say necessary norm. Putting it as a norm, but it shows that it does the complete opposite. So the whole idea of the nice guy versus the F-boy or the a-hole, all of that nature is the whole idea of women go have their fun, men go have their fun. But for women, later on when they start getting older and they hit this part of the place where they call the wall, is that later on those men that they overlooked that were seen as nice guys, which will be considered beta, but not necessarily because they're nice, but just the whole idea of their demeanor and stuff, considered beta, would be partners that you would have long term of a relationship, but not necessarily produce offspring, versus the alphas where you would go and do all of that with them, but they're not ideal lifelong partners. Now that all played into at least this, I told you, manosphere and what's going on between all of that, that community pickup, all their relationships. But you can find that on YouTube very easily, because that's just a big topic that goes around back and forth. I mean, even in the pop culture with, you know, Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, a lot of the women, you can see what they're saying in their lyrics, but how they're going to do their thing, especially also too, Beyonce's in there as well, of what they want, what they don't do, and they still get a man, all this other different stuff. But again, some of it is used to gaslight people, and then some of it is also used to inform folks to be like, this is what's happening, what are you going to do? Now let me see again. One thing I've always said, men are true to themselves, especially subconsciously. Y'all can't hide who y'all really are for long. It's not in your nature. Yes, I'm with that. Like the famous Star Wars Princess Leia scene is basically assault in retrospect. Same with Indiana Jones, but the programming is romantic, yes. Vaccination. Bro, you so extra, my G. You come in later when I talked about that. I was talking about that earlier, bro. Alright, Disney pushes romance on children. I don't like it. Yeah. And it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all, because it sets us up for failure. It doesn't necessarily. This is one thing I can say, that Disney, especially those type of movies, the Happy Ever Laughter, they don't do a really good job of showing you the whole aspect of what a relationship is, on how to keep a relationship, how to really interact and be together as a unit. It's usually the shots here and there. They have an issue, then they're here, then it's this, then they're that. Oh, we're back together and doing this. That also is also showing how behavior relationships should be. It's like there's going to be a big breakup, and then you come back, do the same thing again, then you leave again. It really is just promoting the whole idea of, honestly, this whole dopamine reward. They're doing stuff like this. And really, you can say the quote-unquote trendy word, toxic relationships in a way, too. Disney does not do a good job when it comes to showing us how to really work with our persons in a relationship. The opposite sex doesn't do a good job at all. He said, Jasmine and Aladdin had no business kissing. That was a children's movie. They don't care nowadays. They don't. I mean, even back way when. It's just once we get older to it, man, even SpongeBob do some stuff like that. There's so much adult references in cartoons. It's ridiculous. If y'all go back and see, my goodness, would be surprised. I'm gonna tell you wouldn't be surprised if you see that. Unhealthy romance in most cases is at that, yes. If media push the programming that aggressiveness is attractive, then collectively, culturally, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes, because media, at the end of the day, has that power to do so because that's the narrative. Once you get a dominant narrative going, then it's easy to program and seduce the folks within society to put onto a trait, any type of trait, very easily, and it's because of the continued repetition of it, and not only the incentives for you to display that type of behavior, but also how you are congratulated and rewarded around and among people within the society of you doing that behavior. That's why things like that will repeat itself, is because we got the Pavlov's dog, that conditioning of you, okay, I'm going to put this in. All right, now he's going to react this way. Boom. And we want this certain response to happen. And then, oh, good job. You did a great job of doing that. Now I'm going to end up repeating that. It's like every time I do this, I get rewarded. Oh, I get hit with, dopamine, a good feel-good senses because of the fact that I did something that everybody said was something I should be doing. Yeah, it definitely doesn't help. Doesn't help at all. So, kissing a sleeping princess looks like assault too, for example, and they always marry someone they don't even know. Oh, y'all having fun up in here. Yeah, the sexual innuendos in Animaniacs is crazy. I watched a few episodes as an adult. It kind of shocked me. I'm telling y'all, it's riddled throughout cartoons. Go back, look at it. For my folks, and I'll say the early 90s. Go back and look at Ren and Stimpy. Look at Rocco's Modern Life. All that on Nickelodeon. Like, question Nickelodeon. Like, look at what they've also probably, getting it put within the cartoons. You'll be surprised. There's an episode within Rocco's Modern Life where literally the wife, I forgot of the other main character, but it's a bullfrog, is that literally it was showing infidelity. The wife was starting to hit on Rocco because of the fact that she was not feeling, happy within her marriage. So it's so crazy. It's crazy. You start breaking this stuff down and you see it. It's like, yo, bro, this is already from the get-go. Even Rugrats, bruh. There's more and more. You just keep uncovering stuff, like the whole thing. I was just about to mention Ren and Stimpy. Yes, the big heads, Ed and B, bruh. Ed, look. Cartoon Network, all these different places, y'all. So we on a whole different thing. But to wrap up at least with the alpha beta talk, a lot of that comes from, again, with the observances within the animal kingdom and the usage of it stemming back not only between Greek and Roman times of taking beta male under your wing to help them grow, which will be for really more so man. A lot of these references is really tailored to men in particular, because they don't really talk much about. There's women out there that says there's alpha women and beta women as well too, but these labels are being misrepresented and used just again to push a narrative and an idea that an alpha person is like up here, beta person is down here, they know what's going on, and to protect the ego and to be an ideal mate and selection for a number of people. But a lot of it's really used only for just men. at least the whole idea of alpha and beta. But again, it's with the context of relationships stemming back even to further, again, to us back when we were hunting and gathering. But overall, with the alpha and beta talk is just knowing when somebody's using that, what's their intent and what are they meaning behind that when they use the slang of alpha and beta, and why, honestly, why they're using it. So we're studying each other's behaviors and what was being said and put out between there. But if y'all have anything else for alpha and beta, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move on to the last topic for tonight, which the last topic for tonight is going to be the nature of rankings and roles. You know? Yeah, because we know we can. But before I do that, let me check y'all's comments one more time, too. Yeah, it said, Walt Disney himself was super, right? Yeah, anti-black and anti-Hindi, too. Yes. I mean, look at the cartoons back where he went, too. Y'all can go look up Mickey Mouse in those cartoons. Don't forget, y'all, what century and what history was just 100 years back. I know we're in 2021, but just take 100 off of that. Think about the 1920s. Where were we? This is still evident. It's spread all throughout our culture. I say our culture, but within the Western culture, not only through the cartoons, but what our behaviors and things are said. This is still stemming from the history. That's why we talk about history repeating itself and knowing your past so that you can have a root and an understanding of how to prepare and move yourself in the present to have a greater future. That's why there's a whole thing of evolution and evolving and helping the next generation of folks be better than previous. Because of stuff like that. Shoot, we still barely, out of the 1960s? We still barely just getting out of where we're at right now. So, it's so interesting, y'all. You said he was a pedo too. B movie never said well with me either. They had a human woman falling in love with it. Yep, that is best in bestiality.
What's the word?
A whole different thing. What's going on, Kundan? What's the word? Back again, y'all.
Oh wait, I couldn't hear you. Hey, what's up?
What's the word?
What's the word? Yeah, I did this post today, which is related to the discussion, the top 5 books on dating and relationships. And the first book I put up was this one. It's called Deeper Dating.
Mm-hmm.
And by Ken Page. He's a gay white guy, so the way I love that, the way he's written the book is not based on the gender binary or heteronormative stuff because he himself is like gay. So, and then the subtitle is How to Drop the Games of Seduction and Discover the Power of Intimacy. And then he has a subtitle to that subtitle, which is Why You Don't Need to Look Perfect, Act Confident, or Play Hard to Get to Find Real Love.
Gotcha. And if y'all don't know who this is Kundan, y'all. This is a regular here on What's the Word Wednesdays, as well as please follow Kundan if you will for a lot of this information, because for some reason, I guess we just be on that universal time. So when I have a topic or something that comes on, you have so much relevant and evidence and information that just relates just on the day of every time. So please, y'all, go follow at, I want to say, again, you say where to follow you at.
Yeah, Akashic Consultants Harbor up there.
On Instagram, y'all.
On Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. I mean, I also have YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Everywhere I'm just my name, Kundan Chabra. Instagram is the only place where I go by this unique name, Akasha Consultants Harbor.
There it is.
So yeah,
All right, so you in here.
and
So let's see.
yeah,
We're on the last topic for tonight. I mean, you could dip in a little bit from the previous one, but again, if y'all don't get it, y'all don't see the trend, I put these topics together on purpose. And yes, I know you're going to get annoyed at me saying that over and over again, but that's the running joke over here is I do these things on purpose, so pay attention.
yeah,
Last thing we're going to talk about, this is the last
yeah.
topic for
The
today.
reason why I also mentioned, like, I still want to talk a little bit about the previous topic, like, because uh, I mentioned false binaries and then I mentioned the gender binary just now because I now identify as non-binary gender fluid instead of a man.
Yeah,
And so it's important also for uh, these topics to address not just heterosexual and the binary relationships, but also the homosexual, bisexual, right,
yeah,
pansexual, and the non-binary relationships. And that's why I like this book because it's a book that talked about what I said earlier, the attractions of uh, desperation versus the attractions of inspiration, right?
mm-hmm.
And he even talks about the attraction spectrum.
Mm.
And so, and that's based on your attractions of inspiration and desperation. What he says is that uh, until you rewire that attraction spectrum, often your attractions will be attractions of desperation, meaning that until you rewire that, what will happen is that often the people that are your personal eights, nines, and tens, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you. Those are the people that are dangerous and harmful and toxic for you. That until you rewire it, you should probably go for your boring 5 or 6 person
There is nothing
that you
wrong with
rate,
average.
right? Yeah, basically what he's saying. And the reason is because your nines and tens, you're attracted to them because they contain your core wounds that you still need to heal, and your core wounds come from the worst traits of your parents, and these people trigger your core wounds that come from the worst traits of your parents. That's why you're attracted to them because you want subconsciously a second chance to heal it. Like, you know, and until you deal with that, you'll keep attracting the same type of person over and get over again. That's why you need to address and heal your core wounds and then find your core gifts
Mm.
and then start. And they basically that's how you rewire and then start trying to find. And so, and
Ah, I don't know where Kundan went, y'all. Hope Kundan will come back. But I'm glad that Kundan was bringing up the point about the spectrum and those folks that who identify within on the spectrum. Again, I only said that briefly. I'm not again hip or at least known to knowing those differences within that and having those interactions between and knowing. I can only speak again from my perspective of being, you could say, cisgender, heterosexual man. So I'm speaking in a lot of just mostly that dominant culture when it comes to gender, sex, and things of that nature. All right, let's get you back up in here. But I appreciate that perspective. Yo, fam, you looking like Snoop Dogg when he first started growing his hair out today. Sorry. I swear, everybody say I do. But hey, look at
hello,
Sue. Sue. And for everybody, I hear
can
you,
you
but
still
I
hear
hear
me?
you, Kundan. For Sue and everybody, y'all, there's too many people that say, one, I look like Snoop, but then also two, me and Snoop share the same name. Yeah, me and Snoop share the same name. For all those here, I don't care sharing my first name. Yes, I can still hear you and see you, Kundan, but you're still circling back and forth. But my name is Calvin, just like Snoop's name is Calvin. So I'm not surprised you say I look like Snoop Dogg. I've had it a number of times. Off topic. It's all good. It's all good. Are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
You
I want
can
you to continue with
see
your
and
point.
you can see and hear me, right? So what was the last thing
Yes.
that you heard me say? I was talking about the
You were finishing up your
attraction
point.
spectrum.
Yes. You were finishing up that
Yeah,
point.
so I was saying that your attractions of desperation, right? The people that you're attracted to the most before you rewire that, your personal nines and tens that are toxic for you, you're attracted to them to get a second chance subconsciously to heal your core wounds that you got from your parents, and they most resemble
Mm.
uh, the core wounding from your parents. That's why you're attracted to them. So instead of using the relationship to, to go over this again and again, repeating this and torturing yourself,
Yes.
he suggests, like, why not try to heal it on your own, right? And deal with your core wounding and, including subconscious beliefs that come, right? Um,
Mm.
and then, as well as your core rejection, like, these are also the same people that, just like your parents rejected your core gifts, right? So that's why first you need to heal your core wounds and then discover your core gifts. And that's
Mm.
basically how you rewire your attraction mechanism.
Yeah.
So your initial, fives and six, they're boring to you before you rewire your mechanism because they're actually good for you. They're like, they actually appreciate your core gifts, but it's not exciting for you because you're still attracted to what's dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's thrilling. So you need to rewire yourself so that what's safe is more thrilling and enjoyable for you. And how you do that is by discovering, first healing your core wounds and discovering your core gifts and embracing it, and start seeing it in
Mm.
yourself and try to, like, appreciate some aspects of it in other people as well. And you start looking for the core gifts in other people as well, their personal core gifts, right? That's how you start relating.
Mm.
And what happens is then you start attracting people who appreciate your core gifts, and what used to be your fives and six then becomes your healthy nines and tens. Now that you're rewired it, they're no longer boring for you. So that's what the book is talking about. Yeah, that's the premise of the book, basically. Yeah.
I feel it.
Hmm.
Man. I mean, I kind of not gonna say. I mean, I will definitely say I know a lot of that, but not from the aspect, of course, of writing it all down. I've been
Mm-hmm.
able to observe that and see that. That's why, at least when it comes to, and again, like I said, I appreciate your perspective when you bring in, again, on a spectrum. I've said there's a number of folks. It's not only just that; it's a
It's funny
spectrum.
because it is related to the rankings and roles that we're going to
Yes,
talk about next. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show,
Hmm.
again, the priorities of folks when it comes to what they necessarily are striving for. That can be very
Hmm.
idealistic versus what
Hmm.
is realistic for them, because
Hmm.
ultimately, yes, we have different plans and different goals in life, but a lot of those certain goals and plans can become relative, especially when you're trying to, for a species, what do we do to continue on? We have to
Hmm.
reproduce, and we have to bring, again, the future. There won't be no future if we don't continue that process. But what's going on
Hmm.
is we're going back again, like I said, to our innate and our wiring from back way when, and we're pairing it with
Hmm.
a modern twist that now we're
Hmm.
confusing ourselves and we're not
Hmm.
sure what to really look at and to really, quote unquote, trust. Should we trust what has been pushed and now is within society and conform, versus
Hmm.
listen and learn and update from what we naturally know when it comes to not only
Hmm.
attraction, but seeking mates, relationships and things of that nature. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
That's all been misunderstood. But
yeah.
go ahead.
And the media programming that I mentioned earlier adds to that confusion because now the traits of our nines and tens on the attractions of desperation, right?
The ideal beauty.
Before we rewire our programming, they not only our parents' programming, but now the media programming is added to it. The unhealthy media programming that being aggressive is what's attractive, right? Like to the point that there is even some confusion about whether is attractive to ask before you kiss somebody on the lips, right? And some of the programming is you just uh, tune into the person's mood and you don't verbally ask, but uh, you just go ahead and kiss. So
Reading the
uh,
situations.
reading the situation, looking for nonverbal consent, right? But how
Hmm.
do you really know nonverbal consent, right? And but if you don't do it, sometimes that might be seen as not aggressive enough and therefore not attractive enough.
Yep. Again, uh,
Yeah.
conundrum and contradiction over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over again. So that's why I said,
Mm-hmm.
especially nowadays, there's been a lot of push about relationships. Especially the reason why
Mm-hmm.
I was saying it, at least from my perspective, is seeing between male and female, and they're still within all the other communities as well. But I'm seeing that happen so much that basically we don't
Mm-hmm.
understand each other. And as much as we try to understand each other, we think we know each other, but we don't know each other because guess what? We haven't even went to talk to each other. We're just
Mm-hmm.
guessing off of other people's experiences that we know of that's either had a bad or a good experience and not had the
Mm-hmm.
experience ourselves. So we're living
Mm-hmm.
vicariously through other people and not known the experience yourself. So we're not going and asking, what, you know, a certain guy might like in me or a certain woman might like
Mm.
in me versus, oh, I seen this
I want
on
to
YouTube or I
pause
seen this
that.
in person. So go
I
ahead.
really want to pause there and really highlight what you just said because I think it's important because I might lose my train of thought and you might lose it too. But when you said living vicariously,
Yeah.
right, because you don't know yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's such a good point, and I think that's why representation is important, even though uh, I don't I don't think representation is enough, but it's a good starting point,
Yeah.
right? Uh, because like a few months ago, I posted a review about the novel Ray Bearer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned that what the initial reason why I wanted to read it was because of the asexual representation and the demisexual representation, you know.
Mm.
And so asexual means uh, you either don't experience sexual attraction at all, whether male, female, non-binary, you just don't experience it, or you do experience it, but you don't enjoy sex. So asexuality is also a spectrum, you know. And then demisexual is uh, you need an emotional bond, or yeah, you need an emotional connection to be sexually aroused or sexually attracted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I posted an initial review in the
Demonstrative.
Facebook group, right?
That's what demi
Uh,
means. Just like demonstrative. You gotta demonstrate
yeah,
that.
demonstrative. Yeah, yeah, that's a
That
good
makes
breakdown. I didn't think of it
sense. No,
before.
because once you
Yeah,
said it, demisexual, and when you said the definition, I was like, oh, okay. So like, you have to be able to demonstrate some type of love and affection for the person to be. Oh, okay, I get it now.
exactly.
All
Yeah,
right. And then
yeah.
asexual.
So,
Continue your thought. Go ahead. Continue your thought.
so somebody posted a comment, this powerful, like really eye-opening comment, and she said that she's so happy this book came out because both asexual and demisexual representation is rare in any form of media, including, books, right? Novels,
Yeah.
fiction, especially in romance fiction, but even in fantasy fiction as well, which is the genre this is actually in. And
Mm.
so she said she thought she had a very strong feeling for like many years that she was demisexual, but because there was no one to reflect it back to her in any form of media, she didn't even believe herself. It was almost like
Mm.
the entire culture, the entire media was gaslighting her basically, right? Into
Yeah.
denying her own reality her own lived experience. And but now that this book came out, like this is going to be so helpful for her. So the reason why I brought that up is because that's the other side of living vicariously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know who we are. We're living vicariously thinking, oh, maybe that is how we are, rather than the assumption that, so we conflict the assumption that this is how we should be with this is how we actually are. You know, the two are like conflicted when they're actually separate things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you had went through and elaborated a bit more on that point for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now y'all.
And there's the book, by the way, Ray Barrow. I think I mentioned it before. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, y'all write
Yeah.
it down, put it in there.
This was in my book list today
Favorite
as well. This was
habit.
also in the book list. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
yeah. With that, y'all, let's move to the last topic of the night. I said it earlier, but we're gonna go. This is the point in the video. So future me, right here is the point where we're gonna talk about the last topic, which we're gonna
mm,
speak on the nature of rankings and roles. Now, when you're asking me like, okay, why are we gonna be talking about the nature of rankings and roles? Well, if you look around us, there's so much put into our society that revolves around rankings and revolves around
mm,
roles. Because how do you know if you're number one if you're not even started in the rankings? Why is there a number
mm,
one? Why is there these numbers? As well as why are there people that work as construction? Why are there people that are doctors? Why are there people that do this and all of this stuff? Well, we think of that as in, again, the ecosystem. The nature aspect of that is being able to thrive within a community, within an ecosystem, is that everybody has a particular role to play. And for those folks, also for the rankings, it shows, all right, who is quote unquote not only credible, because we can talk about that word and everything else too, but who has the skills enough to lead in a particular way and has the
mm,
right amount abilities to do this particular role. Um, I'm
mm.
gonna leave it right there, real quick, before doing anything else. Did you have a point that you want to add, at least with the starting?
I mean, just I agree, like basically, racism itself, right, which is the white supremacist system that we're in is very much actually a form of racialized classicism, which itself is a form of ranking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where white people, especially cis straight white men, are at the top, right? So there's a hierarchy of systemic power and privilege and even capital, right? So we have cis straight white men at the top, cis straight white
Yes.
woman is number two on that hierarchy, and then we go, down into, other, and we have, brown men, brown women, and then right at the bottom would be, at least in this country, United States, right, would be the trans black woman would be at the bottom, right at the bottom.
Mm.
So, and yeah, now if you take into the global south, then I would say the poorest, indigenous trans women would be right at the bottom of that
Mm.
hierarchy if you take into the global south.
Mm.
And so there's a global hierarchy too, because on that hierarchy, I feel like even black people are higher on that hierarchy because there is also such a thing as not American privilege or even onto epistemological privilege, which is another form of hierarchy. So yeah,
Mm.
there are so many hierarchies and rankings going on.
Yes. And it's because of the fact of not. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's so much of that. There's so many cycles of just socialization that adds on top of how we look at rankings and the natural aspects of life. Now, I want to add more to that point, but going back again, if we look within the nature, or I should say the animal kingdom, we have a hierarchy in that. The food chain is a hierarchy. It's a showing of rankings. It's like we're up here, well, this animal, this organism, this organism, this organism, all the way down here, creating this whole chain, which enhance, again, it's a ranking as well as each one having their role that's there. Now, how does that all pertain to rankings and roles within society now? It shows and pairs, again, are we back? It shows
Hello, can
exactly
you see
who.
me, hear me? We're back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, I was just pairing Kundan with your point and adding on how a lot of this too, we chain that back to the animal kingdom as well as the whole idea of the food chain in itself is still right there, is a ranking and showing that each organism within that chain plays a role for the other organism that plays that for that organism, and it just continues on into this, call it a cycle, 360. I swear. I'm sorry, y'all, that I laugh at points, but I play my music in the background, and it seems that literally every time I'm onto a point, the song plays a specific word I'm about to say, and that's just universal timing. I'm going to just call it that. All this synchronicity. But going back in this point with the natural aspect of food chain and all of this stuff within society, it adds to, again, like we said, the core of this institution and this system that we live in, specifically, especially within the Western system. It shows up also, like you're talking about, in finances, in certain jobs that you can get, certain credentials that you can go out and find, certain grants, certain scholarships. There's certain, traits and physical appearances that you must have for certain jobs and things, as well as when it comes to the whole job market. That's a whole competition in itself of rankings, of you either being the top pick and aspect for a particular job, or you might just be literally just scraping and getting by. And what it all does and comes to show really is that as much as we can say that we want, again, to be equal and have equity, there's always going to be some type of infrastructure that is going to say otherwise to show someone's superiority over another person. Even though there is a way to morph and balance all that together, us as human beings and how some people are routed, that will never be the case, because the only way for that person's defense mechanisms, their quote unquote ego and all this other stuff to feel safe and protected is that somebody has to be over somebody. I have to have something that's different from you besides this. I gotta be better than you at something, rather than, oh shoot, you do that very well, I do this very well. When we come together, we create something that's even much greater than what it was before, but I give you your props for what you can do, and you giving me my props on what you can do. No, that's not the particular case. So that's why, again, as humans, we're so curious. We want to know, label, and put things. We have these rankings. Then you know who's the fastest in a race. We know who's the smartest when it comes to doing this. We know who is the best at cooking and things of that nature because of the taste. A lot of this is very subjective, while at the same time, it is woven into science to also be objective, because observation, the scientific method, etc., and things of that particular sort, that it continues to show itself time and time again, as much as people want to not only question it, which I'm always glad. We got to analyze and we have to question things so that we can progress further. But also really understand why people continue to relive and go back to that point of, man, I got to be better than you, or I have to be on top of you in some way, shape, or form. So is it possible, though? Look, a lot of things are definitely possible, but that comes up to your perspective of what you will see possible is. Is 10% of people having this perspective and being able to not worry so much about rankings and be able to identify that everybody has that role that helps the community be better? Is that what shows you it can be possible? Then yeah, it's possible. Or if we're talking about 100% everybody on the world and the earth, I'm going to tell you that. Woo! I don't know if I can do a math or give you a statistic, but it's very close to zero. I'm going to tell you that now. And it's because of the different variances of our intentions, what we've been taught, programming, lived experiences, culture, all these different variables that do not mesh well with each other when it comes to how do you play your role? Why are you ranking me higher than this person? So it is possible, but what do you identify as it being possible? 10%, 20, 50? If you say 100, oh, I'm going to tell you now. Like, it's very close to this number right here. I'm at least giving some type of leeway, but it's like a 0 point continue to zeros for a while, and then a 1. So that's on you. But appreciate that, Simmons. Appreciate that. Or is that Lizelle? If I'm saying it right, hopefully. But yeah, I don't know. What do you have on this Kundan?
Yeah, I was just thinking about also that that famous diagram or picture about that illustrates the difference between equality, equity, and justice.
With the persons looking over the gate
The
to see the
football
baseball
field.
game.
Yeah, the football field, this one.
Oh, it's a football field one. Oops, I thought it was the baseball
Yeah.
field. Yes.
So equality is when all of the boxes are equal, but the shortest person still can't see
Yeah.
because of the fence blocking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then equity is when, they give higher stools to the shortest person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But justice is removing that fence altogether so everyone can sit.
See, I'm with that. Let's see. Everything is perspective. We can't control others, but we can control our own perspective. Can we start with making our own realities what we want and being okay with it regardless? Yeah. Again, I agree with your point, but the part that goes there is the willingness and the urgency as well as your intention. Do you want to do that? Because not a lot of people are at that point in their life where they're worrying about higher level of thinking and existence. Some people are still in survival mode, and they're literally trying to figure out where they're going to get their water for the day. I was speaking about that earlier in the news topics, as well as what they're going to eat and where they're going to sleep for the next day. So them thinking about, world peace, ending world hunger, all this other different stuff are very, very lofty goals, and it's not a priority for them. So I agree with your point there. And if you are you can say, quote unquote, we'll say privileged to be able to be in a point where you can be very introspective and think a lot of these things through, please take that opportunity to do so, because who knows that your information, your knowledge, and your light, as an example, will shine off, and it might, again, trigger in a good way, not trigger in a bad way, but be able to start the process in somebody else, and they see because you've went through it. So I thank you for that point there. And yeah, that's that with that one right there. I said the image is powerful. Yeah. I didn't see that. I mean, I saw it, but I didn't even see an update to it because I only saw the 2 until you showed the justice part, and that would make a lot of sense because that would be my next thing. When I was looking at the image a while back, I was like, why don't we just get rid of the game?
Yeah.
I was like, why don't we just get rid of the game? Why is everybody on boxes? This is not the crate challenge, but I'm just like, yo,
Yeah.
it's a great image to show, you know, one situation and how people see it
Mhm.
in different, again,
Mhm.
instances and perspectives. Now, how to even that all out, that's what you're talking about with that justice. That's
Mhm.
pretty, yeah, it's pretty powerful. Now, continuing with this, with the nature of rankings and roles, I would say, what is, and you can say one or if you have a few, what are some misunderstood things that we know about when it comes to rankings and roles? And what I mean misunderstood is, what are some things that we really don't know, even though we might know, but we really don't know
Mhm.
when it comes to rankings and
Yeah.
roles?
My question is, can rankings be divested from the concept of a hierarchy, and therefore, is there
Mm.
such a thing as a healthy ranking? Like, can it ever be
Mm.
divested from hierarchy, right? So, I guess on a
Mm.
systemic level, I think it would become a natural hierarchy, but on a personal level, maybe there might be healthy context, like what I mentioned earlier about uh, just being attracted to a person, right, and having
Mm-hmm.
your personal, it's totally subjective, it's not objective, right? I think the
Yeah.
mistake is when people start, it becomes oppressive when you use your subjective ranking of another person into an objective reality. You pretend that it's objective,
Mm-hmm.
but like for your personal use, you can use, subjectively your
Mm-hmm.
personal ranking of somebody's attractiveness
Yes.
and see if you are, uh, yeah, you can use that to have healthy or unhealthy relationships, right? And you can
Mm.
use that to see, uh, like initially you would go for your 5 or 6 because you know that's more healthy. So that itself is using a ranking in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you rewire your negative or your unhealthy programming, then you can safely go for your healthy 9s and 10s, right?
Mm.
Uh, so that would be using in a personal subjective way, using ranking in a positive way.
Yes. Um, Another one I would add to it that is misunderstood, or we think we know but we don't know, is the the overuse of scientific explanations.
Mm,
So saying that science can explain everything that there is within this universe and this life, and that since science is what is the norm for a lot of other people and places, is that once there's been hit and it's a scientific fact, you have to be able to follow that. That's just the ranking of how it goes, which again is misunderstood because of the fact that yes, there might be some things that scientifically link up with why there's certain behaviors and why people do things, or the scale of likability from 1 to 10 is this, but it's based off of a lot of variables that one continually need to be observed. Because I give y'all an example. A lot of the scientists back way when we'll use what was it Copernicus,
mm,
all these other different like scientists that believed one thing about how the sun or things was revolved and we revolved around, and then the earth was revolving around that, things of that nature, and we come to find out later on that that necessarily was not
that
the
the Earth
case.
was at the center, right? Yeah.
Yes. And
Mm,
we just continue to figure these things out as time progressed. So science is not always necessarily the end all be all with a lot of this stuff. It can help give you a perspective of why, but is it going to tell you all the way down to the T that yes, you have to be this way and this is how you'll get it 100% of the time? No, because there again, they even say, and that's where people miss out too, is that they say that you leave a room for error, because there always going to
mm,
be some type of error within whatever hypothesis, experiment conclusion that you have at the end of the day, there's always going to be some point of error. There's nothing that's all the way 100%. There's always some percent of error. And yes, there's the whole thing with 110, 120, all these different percentages. It's just that's double or it goes over the expected number, and that's why that percentage is higher. But again, the whole idea that science is able to explain every single thing that goes on within society and the world, it's always changing.
I mean, they've, at the quantum level, there is now even it's been around for decades, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which states that you cannot know both an electron's, I think, position and velocity, something like that. So you can only know one or the other, and precisely. And so the other, so basically I think even that you can only know the probability of where an electron can be, and because it's both a wave and a particle at the same time. But when it's a particle, it's really a probability wave. There's like a 30% chance it will be there, a 70%, like a 60% chance it will be there. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So there is that already, and on top of that, they've discovered that the visible universe that we see is only 5% of the universe. That 95% is dark matter plus dark energy that they cannot see, and they frankly don't even know what it is. Like, they can see the results of it, but they don't. They have concluded that it exists because of the effects of it, right? Which means that not only do they not know what dark matter and dark energy is, they don't even know if dark matter and dark energy itself is a result or effect of something else, right? And how far does the rabbit hole go? And is that the effect of something else? They don't know. And that's totally uncertainty right there.
Again, that's why don't necessarily believe and think that science will explain every single thing. That's just someone putting out their perspective and figuring physics, it out.
And in mathematics, Gödel, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He came up with the incompleteness theorem, which states that he basically proved that mathematics is both incomplete and inconsistent, which was just mind-blowing. And mathematicians just went crazy at that time. They were like, so like disappointed, because that means even math has a limit to how much you can know someday.
Yeah, it for sure does.
Yeah.
As much as we can say infinity when it comes to things and continuing on and on and on, there's always going to be a particular, you can say, not you say flaw, but there's always going to be that room for there to be error. That's why when you did math and you did improper fractions, or you did things where you divided and you got remainders, like those are just not regular. You have integers, you have negatives, you have imaginaries. Like, once you start getting into all of this stuff,
and complex numbers,
you start to see, like, okay, something's
and the square root
of
-1.
it's like, yo, like, you said that's an imaginary one. Wait, so what does that mean? Like, do I not add that in there, or just assume that there's another one on the other side of that equation that cancels that one out? So then that's why it's imaginary? Or, again, so I'm with you. Like, yeah, it's incomplete, but it's that same incompleteness that we talk about is that what we call it, quote unquote, makes it perfect because of its imperfections. So that's why we're able to use it, and it is a universal language, is because of that fact. Now, we'll do a few more points and then we will wrap up for tonight's show. But I wanted to move back again into the ideas too of the role aspect of when it comes to nature.
Mm-hmm. I think before we go there, another useful aspect of ranking might be just even something as simple as maybe having an income goal, like say, I
Hmm.
will make 100K by this time and date, right? If you have a goal like that, or even
Hmm.
$1 million, which some people might have a goal like that. So,
I feel it. And you rank it. Look, and you do it by priority. What are priorities? Those
mm-hmm.
are rankings too. Like we like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
got 10 things to do today, but this is number one on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it, and I'll go into the part with the rows. I think the information and knowledge that we have, including with math and science, there will always be structures of rankings.
Mm-hmm.
We'll continue to do that. It's because we have those different quote unquote universal languages to help us explain certain things. So if we didn't have numbers or had some of these other different things, people were just people. It was just being. Surviving was the day. That was it. Even in the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea of maybe saying survival in the fitness, like there's a number one predator and things and stuff of that nature. But who was thinking of that when they was trying to survive? Like, okay, like all right, for sure, I need to watch out for the cougars versus watching out for this bear. And again, our prefrontal cortex, this is really what's going on, is our whole prefrontal cortex is come into play, y'all. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why there's so much more complexity to what we do and say and have stuff now. But
Mm-hmm.
now moving to the roles so we can roll on out of here. I'm just playing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get punny, y'all, but you can say terrible joke. You can put it in the comments, whatever it is. Um, when it comes to roles, why do we stress the importance of people playing a particular role within society? Why do we stress it so much? Because the reason why, and I mean, you continue on with it.
Like a job.
Mm-hmm.
Like a job is kind of a role, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why do we stress it so much? Like, why is it just like, okay, y'all can just be and do, whatever you may want to end up doing. Hopefully you get to this. If you don't, it's okay. But why is it a necessity? There you go. Why is it such a necessity? Why?
I mean, on the healthy side, I think it gives us flexibility and versatility, both individually and collectively,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we are allowed to switch roles, right?
Mm.
It becomes oppressive when A, we're not allowed to switch roles, and B, it becomes its own hierarchy and then identity, even where if you are a doctor, you, yeah, even when I said it, right? I said if you are a doctor, but even if you are you actually a doctor or just somebody, a human being who plays the role of being a doctor temporarily in your job? You
Mm.
know, you are so much more than just a doctor. You are also a human being with probably other skills and gifts and talents. You might play the piano at home on the side for fun, for example.
So going to almost these
Yeah.
archetypes, these different type of archetypes that people
Right.
can
You might
play.
also be a father or mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, with all of that, with all of those there, like, why? Why do we need to play these particular roles? Like, why is it
Mm-hmm.
necessary that we have these roles within life? Why? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know you gave some points, but like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I feel, or I should say, I know reasons why we have particular roles within life is because, again, we're all in this together within this world and this life. So for things to work within the cycle, or this circle of life, people naturally are going to sit into roles that fit them and what works and how things are going, because we are alive, we are living, so we need to survive, and we have things that we need to do to continue on with it into the future. So naturally, if you leave people in a particular place outside of, you can say, this unnatural life that we live in now, people are going to find a way. That's why you got folks like the Amish. You got folks like literally still indigenous folks and people that's out there doing things of this nature. It's not because of the advancement of society as well, but it's because of the fact that, honestly, innately, that's what we talk about when we want to find our purpose, our meaning, and our goals in our life. It all is centered around a role that you play. Because if you have no role to play, it's basically akin to you not having a purpose. Then why am I here? If I don't have a role to play, it's like, what do I do then? I have no clue. Do I just sit in this chair all day? I mean, even the chair has a purpose at this point, and I don't even have a purpose. It's helping me out, and I ain't doing anything. So I would say, at least when it comes to the roles, it really goes deep down to the point of it's almost akin, if not close to, purpose.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
It is. Yeah, it is like a purpose, even if only for the moment, right? Or only for a certain number of years, where it may not necessarily be the purpose or your life purpose, but even having a purpose for the moment or for a certain period of time is, kind of important. And I think that's what roles do for you. It gives you a reason for being alive, even in a way, or even just to occupy your time, occupy your mind for a period of time.
Yeah. On top of that, also, like we already spoke about it before, but I mean, that's what happens within a society or within a culture of places, that people are playing particular roles to help a community to grow. And I like to go back and always reference that book on African intimacy and relationships by Sombofu, if I'm saying it correctly, and how each person within a particular community or tribe had a role to play. Those folks that were considered, would say homosexual, or you would end up saying, but I don't, I'm terrible with the terminology, had their particular role, which they were able to be the connector into the deeper dimensions of stuff. So when relationships needed to be paired and they needed to connect to a higher, not necessarily a higher power, but a different dimension of power, they would go to those folks. They were the gatekeepers. For some certain men within the culture, they were either the builders, or they would end up being, the chiefs or the mentors to the boys that are coming up. There are certain areas where literally the men will go stay with the men and women will go stay with the women, as well as some women's in there were nurturers. Some of them were also teachers. Everyone had a particular role to play, because I think you said it before, or I have another brother that said it as well, is if everybody wants to play the chief, who's going to be the Indians or the Native Americans? Who is?
Or the followers.
Who? If everybody wants to be a boss, dang, who's going to be the employee? Like, everybody's not set up to be running and doing things. Yes, individually we are able to own and govern what we do, but when it comes to a holistic view of things, if I know that I know nothing about computers and science, and I'm trying to be a technician or do anything within the with computers, I'm not gonna be able to be that helpful within that role. But if I know my strong suit is
Mm-hmm.
for me to be a mentor, a teacher, a guidance counselor, or whatever may end up being, and I fit that role and it works perfectly for me, and I'm able to influence the next person, the youth, whoever it is, to end up figuring out theirs, then that's where I know that I'm set for. Because then there's somebody else that could take that spot to be that technician or to be that engineer versus me. Because of the fact that for this to continue going on, for a system to continue to work, somebody, some other person has to play that role while I play this role. Because if one cog is working, but the other one's not working because of miscommunication as well as thinking the other one could do what the other one does, the system itself does not continue to run. It's because when one's out of the way, the other one breaks down. I mean, you can look at your body as being an example too. There are vital parts in your body that are like, yo, if that one shuts down, then another one is also inherently impacted as well too. Not saying that it's always only the more important, but
and different organs play different roles.
exactly. Yeah. So it's not only just what we see outside, but guess what? It's in our biology. Yes, I had to break it down that way. I'm not a biologist. Again, I'm not. I'm a lyricologist. But it just shows you that from the inside, we talk about the inside, the inner world and the outside world. It shows you that you are a reflection of that on the outside. So if you can't even get your inner self together, and you see that each part within your organs and hands and things and stuff play a part to make this body move, what tells you on the outside here that, yo, for this to work, I have to play this, somebody has to play that for this role to work? Because if not, then it becomes stagnant, it becomes desolate, and it's just never going to work ever again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that saying, too many cooks spoil the dish. Yeah.
Yep. Can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You can't have too many folks trying to. That's why we don't have 5,000 presidents in the U.S. Because if we have 5,000 different presidents in the U.S., then who do we listen to, quote unquote, or who is the one that has that quote unquote power to influence particular change? If one other president is saying this, the other president ends up saying that. So as much as we want to be like, yo, I don't like the role that I'm playing, like, let's question everything and do all of this and throw away with, these different breakdowns and stuff of that, I'm like, I'm with you when it comes to analyzing and critically breaking things down. But there's parts in there that are very natural to our makeup as human beings in the species that we cannot ignore. As much as we want to do away with it, at the end of the day, and I'm going to say this, nature always wins. And it's because it's a part of you. If you try to get rid of something that is natural to you, I'm going to tell you now, that's like you going against a tsunami, thinking you're going to win. If you don't know how to ride the wave, and you just say, nah, I'm just going to go through it, and naturally you're supposed to ride the wave, and you're like, nah, I'm going through this, and you find yourself literally underwater, almost drowning, you thinking you can change the wave in itself, and it's like, no. That's how nature works, and that's how it goes. What you do is you learn to upgrade, and you learn from what you have naturally to where it makes sense for you and other folks. So I'm all with breaking the stuff down and critically looking at it through multiple different lenses, but I'm not with just throwing everything away and just saying, let's start fresh, knowing that that also doesn't always prove to be the case, and because there's multiple people that are against a whole different set of things. So it's a natural ranking, and there's natural roles are necessary, but can be seen negatively depending on the way that we perceive it and use it. And ultimately, parts of us, it's there naturally. So just, question it, look at it, and if it makes sense to you, go for it. So I don't know if you had another point to that, Kundan, or if you don't, your last thoughts before we end for tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if we followed a little bit of a different format here instead of the pros and cons.
Oh yeah, it's because we got to switch it up.
But I did, yeah. Although I did a con in the beginning when I said it can become a
Yeah.
hierarchy. The rankings can become, and then, but like even roles can turn into a ranking or a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, a bad ranking where, uh, like I mentioned about the doctor and things like that. But in India, like we have uh, a perfect example of how colonialism has manipulated and destroyed and distorted and really completely changed the original system that we had. So in Hinduism, originally before the caste system, we had the Varna system, which was not vertical, it was horizontal, and wasn't based on birth, where anybody can be any Varna and they can switch Varnas, where basically it's a role depending on your skill, your ability, your practice. A merchant can become a priest can become a warrior. It's you can, basically change it. But it started with the Portuguese and then the British. We've basically had, Hindu civilization goes back 13,000 years, but colonialism goes back at least 1,000 years, starting with the Portuguese, as well as the Islamic invaders. And we've only had 75 years of independence, right, compared to the 1,000 years at least. And so the funny thing is the word caste comes from the Portuguese word casta.
Okay. Yeah.
So they were the ones who introduced, and then the British exacerbated it, who introduced the caste system, and they inverted or subverted it, and they turned the horizontal system into a vertical system. And it used to be like regional, where there were so many regional differences and basically like thousands of different systems, but they were all like pretty much horizontal Varna system. And they decided to make it homogenized, universal. And just like they invented race, they invented caste, but now they've completely blamed Hinduism, and now the belief among people is that it's a totally Hindu thing, when in reality it's a totally British Portuguese colonial thing. So everywhere they go, they invented these very unhealthy, toxic hierarchies.
Yeah.
Here in the United States, they invented race.
Yeah.
Over there, they invented caste. But it's worse in India because, at least in the United States, we know who invented it. We know that the European colonizers did. In India, it's completely blamed on the Hindus and being like that it's supposedly 100% Hindu thing when it's not. So, but that's a great example of how the original horizontal roles were completely subverted and turned into a hierarchical ranking. And then they also made it based on birth.
Yeah.
And they made it so cruel where the lowest level is supposed to be untouchable, where people can't even touch that person or be around that person.
Almost like leprosy.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you see, a lot of times, y'all, we speak on a lot of these topics. They come back to very similar endings, and a lot of it coming down to not just only the human intentions, but also just coming down to how people perceive other people and how we get, not say necessarily controlled, but conditioned to believe. Once again, there's the word lies and believe in certain beliefs because someone else said it without you going and experiencing and learning about why you believe what you believe instead of just vicariously believing and thinking what the other person they lived through their experience. I mean, with that, do you have a last closing thought, Kundan, before I go ahead and I wrap it up for tonight?
Yeah, just use rankings and roles in a healthy way and be careful of it turning into toxic hierarchies.
So, basically being able to do maintenance on things, because once again, stuff don't stay the same forever. You always got to do some maintenance. Your car, your house, your body, etc. So always do maintenance, for sure.
And be careful of false binaries as well, and appreciate your multidimensional self,
Boom.
as well as in others. Yeah.
Boom. With that, y'all, to wrap up for tonight, first thing, when it comes to current events, always make sure you're taking time out of your day, even if it's 5 minutes, to figure out what's going on around you, because that has an impact not only on you, but the family members and those around you. So please take your time to get informed. 2, when it comes to the whole idea of alpha and beta, just know that this is a culture and an ideal that has been used way back when, which is basically dedicated to you understanding the primitive side of yourself and how that has evolved over time into pop culture. So either you're alpha, beta, sigma, all behind, above, just know what those behaviors mean and how people use it when it comes to perceiving it. If you feel you're alpha, cool. Feel you're beta, do the same thing. Those are labels, but again, just know what they're used for. Lastly, when it comes to the nature of rankings and roles, again, I will echo the same sentiment, is that watch out for how these rankings and roles can have a negative effect of how you see people and how you create societies and create communities, as well as see what parts you can use to help promote growth and people becoming better versions of themselves. Learning others' values every day. Give people that love that they need. But with that, y'all, appreciate you again, Kundan. Appreciate everyone who's watched, brought in, and gave content, and just took the time out to be here and a part of What's the Word Wednesdays. So shout outs to y'all. And lastly, shout out to those who be watching this now, especially if those watching it later on Instagram and YouTube. Don't forget to follow your boy at A.D.V.I.S. Speaks on YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos to come, because of the fact, we spit in this fire over here. You want this knowledge? Come get it. And we're moving towards 1,000 subscribers, so please go ahead and join your boy on this journey. But with that, this has been another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, Season 2, Episode 28. I've been your brother A.D.V.I.S. This has been Kundan, and we will catch y'all next time, which will not be for another 2 weeks. I don't know the particular date. I'll give y'all a date another time, but we're going to take a 2-week break. So after 2 weeks, we'll be back rested and ready to keep the conversations going. But with that, y'all, self-care for your health care, and we'll see y'all in 2 weeks. Peace and love. We are out.
Yeah.